Hi everyone, it's Janet Wakeland here with Remarkably Created, and in this video I want to take a few moments for you to showcase the pretty Medallion stamp set and give you some ideas for inking it up. We won't be doing any totally finished cards, and you'll see why in just a second. So you want to make sure that you're always liking and following the page so that you can come back for finished projects, as well as check for over 100 finished projects in my 2022 Facebook photo album that I have here. So this stamp set is a large single background stamp. It is designed to fit completely on the back of a standard A2 card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now when you open this stamp, you're going to see that it has a lot of extra rubber around it. And that's one of the reasons why we're not doing a complete card just yet, because I want to talk to you about this extra rubber. If you do not trim this extra rubber off, when you go to ink it up with an ink pad, you're likely to catch ink on these surfaces here, and then you'll need to wipe these areas, these corners clean before you lay cardstock down and stamp with it. If you want to leave all of this rubber intact but avoid inking these surfaces up, I recommend using a small ink spot that you can get in real close, or I recommend using one of our Stampin' Right markers and the brush tip, because you can come in here and add color exactly where you want. Other options would be daubers or blending brushes if you don't want to cut this. But this is actually very easily trimmed. You want to just grab some old scissors, and if you don't have any old scissors around, know that any scissors will work. This is very nice pliable rubber, and if they get a little gummed up, there's a product called Goo, G-O-O, Goo Gone, which is great at removing any of the sticky residue. So I do have a pair of, like these old scissors dedicated for trimming up my stamps, because I'm notorious for cutting my stamps apart, cutting words apart, or I like mine trimmed sometimes just even closer than the way that the machines at Stampin' Up! Trim them. So I call it personalizing or customizing my stamps, but we're just going to do that. This extra rubber piece, I would, consider keeping it around. There's always something fun and creative you can do with it if you have a space and a system for storing. If not, saving things just because you think you might do something with them later is what causes us to have, these just crazy craft rooms with stuff kind of everywhere. So again, if you have a system for storing and being able to find it, you might be able to do some clever, fun things with this. Now, once you have it trimmed, you can decide to put the label on it and then trim around the label as well. Many of you know me and know that I do not put the labels on my stamps. So I just store it right here in that back part of the pocket. So now that you have this nice big background stamp, let's take a moment to review a couple of options that you have for inking it up. I kind of alluded to a few when we talked about the extra rubber. So Stampin' Up! Does sell a nice big block that is big enough for all of our background stamps, and you can put the stamp on there. Now, because of the size of this stamp, most of us have smallerish hands, and to take it upside down like that and bang away on a stamp pad, we may end up with lines, we may not get it inked well, and it's just kind of challenging to hold the whole block this way. So I like to do upside down stamping. I like to keep the rubber side up, and I like to work with our 11 by 17 grid paper because it does help keep my hands clean. So we're going to start first. Let's just ink it up with Tahitian Tide. And again, this way too, I can see that I've got a great coverage, that I have no lines. I can grab the cardstock that I want to use and put that on. Fold over my 11 by 17 grid paper and give it a good rub. If you don't happen to have this amazing grid paper in your craft studio, craft room, craft space, then any type of scrap paper will work to keep your hands clean as well as your additional projects. So Look how pretty that is, right? Absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to fold this over for just a second and just kind of get it good and cleaned off. So another option that you have for inking it up, you can take the daubers, and in this case I'm going to use Tahitian Tide here in the middle of the project. I have Bermuda Bay for another color. And it's not as exacting as a marker is. You can probably see where I'm getting a little bit of the lines of the next part of the image. And I'm okay with that. This just kind of is going to give me the 3 colors that I want with just a little bit of blending on to the other ones. Just put a little bit more Bermuda Bay in here. And then the last color that I have is our Starry Sky. Oh my gosh, this blue is such a pretty blue. And we're just quickly going to go around all of the areas. And what's nice, again, by working with it rubber side up, again, you get to do these fun creative ways of inking it up. Now you could do 3, 4 colors. You could mix and match your daubers with markers. There's no, right or wrong way. In this case, I just chose 3 blues that I like and 3 blues that I have some ideas for the finished projects that I will post here after the video is over and after I complete the projects. I was just waiting to get the stamp trimmed. So I'm going to lay that down, bring my paper back over again. And now we've got 3 beautiful colors making that pop. So let's go ahead and again give it just this good wipe, kind of clean it off. I could also have a chamois that I wipe it with, a little wet sponge or something like that, but I'm sticking to the same colors for what I'm showcasing for you, so I'm not wiping it or wetting it as much. You could also have some type of a baby wipe, as long as it's not one that's loaded with aloe, which can make your stamps a little gummy, but or even a little wet paper towel. But again, I'm sticking to the same colors, so I'm not stressing over making it pristine as I would if I was going to yellow or a lighter color. So here I have a blending brush, and you can see how that just lays the color down on there, that blending brush. I just love our Starry Sky. If you're a fan of the Starry Sky blue, give it a shout out below. If you are not familiar with our Starry Sky, say tell me more below, and we'll tell you a little bit more about it as well. It's just an amazing color. It's so pretty. We'll lay that down. And I just happen to be centering this beautiful medallion, but you don't have to center it. You can always just use part of the image, and that's another way that we'll talk about inking it up. So you can see that even with the blending brushes, you can get a beautiful color with it. And then talking a little bit about, just using part of it. Actually, we'll just do the whole thing in Starry Sky. You don't have to use the whole image. You can, just put part of it onto your cardstock. There's no rules, guys. Just kind of make them up as you go along, right? So you're going to have that just partial image depending on where you want to put it on your project. And let's just put the rest of it on there. Let's just kind of fill in the whole card. Depending on how dark your ink is, you can also get a second inking on your cardstock out of the image. It will be a little bit lighter, okay? So let's go ahead and let's clean this up just a little bit. One other thing, I'm going to pull this up here for just a second, is that if you don't have this large block, you can actually work with it direct on your paper. You want to have a nice surface that it can kind of stick to, and you can work with it direct on your surface. Doing that frees you up to use your block to do another type of inking with that. And in this case, I'm going to take and I'm just going to kind of pull my my ink pad, kind of tap it across here. let's go ahead and, so I've got my colors. You can do it like that. You can also take your blending brush again if you want to blend those edges just a little bit so that they're not so sharp. You could blend them up a little bit. You could also spritz it just a little bit, okay? And just kind of make it a little bit wet, a little bit watercolory. And now you can lay your stamp down on it and ink up your stamp that way. And it's not fun if you're not getting messy in your studio, right? Let's hold on to that because it's got plenty of ink for more inkings later. We'll lay our cardstock. Let's just do it a little bit at an angle just to be a little different. So you can go ahead and get more of a wet watercolor look. You could also then spritz this even more and get it to run just a little bit more, making it a little bit wetter and getting some of that watercolor to run just a little bit and giving you a little bit more of a depth and a deep look. Something else is that you can use Versamark and you can emboss. Just think of it as a stamp. Any way that you would ink up a stamp, this is the only difference between this and any other stamp is it's big, right? It's a nice big stamp. So you have lots of ways, from your blends to your brushes, to your daubers, to your ink pads, to ink spots, to Versamark and embossing, to inking up your block and using that as your stamp pad. Lots and lots of options. So beautiful, beautiful big background stamp. I can't wait to finish up the projects as well as create a few others for you, and I will be showcasing them back here on the Facebook page. Pretty Medallion is the stamp set that we've been playing with. So any questions at all, shoot them into the comments below. Thanks, guys.